But I've been teaching, like I said, 12 years and teach most of the science courses there, do the biology on occasion. And what I wanted to do was bring in more hands-on activities, more real-life situations for my students, and to get them to be more engaged. And the innovation part of this, I think, and I'm going to boast a little bit here, we are the only high school in Kentucky that have raised all 3 trout species from the egg stage to the fingerling stage and released them into wildlife management areas. So I'm real proud of my students. But anyway, I've got this on and off. There's what it would look like. Looks kind of intimidating, doesn't it, if you get that on the end of a hook? But this is an example of what the adult trout would look like, male trout. One of the things we have a problem with is to get our students to think on their own and to engage themselves in experimental design and to gather data and to share their data with one another and to realize what data is valid, what data is not valid, and how to ascertain validity of experiments and things that they read online. So we make them do a lot of hands-on things in class. The goal of this project was to get students to learn about the water cycle and water quality and to apply it and utilize it, understanding also the nitrogen cycle. These are 2 cycles that we have a hard time explaining just using books, but when kids use a real-life situation, looking at a freshwater aquarium that we've had in our classroom, and to use that aquarium as their outdoor classroom, you might say, and try to use that water system and try to mimic Mother Nature, they found out real quick how hard that was to do. So water quality was the main goal. I want my students to understand the value of water, fresh water, and how water is, how that water quality can be maintained and what the effect of various pollutions are on that water. So I traveled to the only cold water facility in Kentucky. It's in Jamestown. It's called the Wolf Creek National Fish Hatchery. And that's where we were able to secure the eggs. These eggs came in right before Christmas. We didn't have any notice, so you have to be real flexible. The state of Kentucky got 1 batch of these eggs, and we were lucky enough for them to give us about 500 to start with. So we placed the eggs into a nesting basket until they hatch. As you can see here, some of the white eggs are the infertile eggs. And once the eggs hatch, we take them and we empty the nesting baskets into the aquarium that we have. It's a cold water aquarium, by the way. I want to say where we spent some of our money was to purchase a pretty expensive chiller. And we have to maintain these trout at water temperatures between 50 and 56 degrees or they don't live. So you got to really keep the water temperature, the water pH, nitrite, ammonia, nitrate levels. My students had to maintain all these chemical levels in the tank. So the kids really learned a lot about water quality testing. They did also conductivity and dissolved oxygen. So the kids actually had experience in testing for all these different water quality parameters. So we got our master kits out. Kids learn how to do a test, and they rotate. 1 week you're working on doing nitrate testing, 1 week you're working on ammonia, 1 week you're using dissolved oxygen, 1 week you're doing conductivity. So these kids rotate from station to station. And by the time the whole year passed, the kids were versed in about 7 different water quality tests. I might want to interject real quick that one of my students that did this the very first year we did it, Luke Trimble, is in Texas, and he's doing water quality sampling for a company. And his mother was just talking to me the other day about it and how proud she was, that he was working there. And he talked about a lot of the things he learned in our class was he was applying in his job that he had in Texas. So I was really want to interject that real quick. But these are the sac fry. And this is when we release the sac fry. They go down and get into the gravel. And they stay there about 10 days until they utilize all their yolk sac, which is the way they nourish themselves. After about 10 to 12 days, they normally swim up to become swim-up fry. We had a problem this year. They weren't swimming up, so I called Sheila Kirk, which is my right hand over there at the fisheries, and she said, that's the way it is. These fish are finicky, and they will stay at the bottom and actually starve themselves. So just keep feeding them a lot of food, which is going to build up your ammonia level in your tank, but you're just going to have to conduct more water changes to get rid of the ammonia, because you have to get those fish to swim up, or they'll lay there and die. So they're swim up fry. One of the things that I wanted the kids to do is see relationships. So as you can see here on this data, as the ammonia levels rise, so they denitrate, so they denitrite. And then they learned with the nitrogen cycle that there was bacteria in our biological filters that were responsible for degrading these toxic chemicals. So they learned the names of the bacteria, what the bacteria's job was to do, and how we could alleviate toxic levels of the ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. So they kept a daily log each time they made a test, and then at the very end they shared all their data to come up and compile this data. The results were we had a spike in ammonia, we had a fish kill, we thought we had a functioning biological filter, but we found out that the bacteria that we purchased the year before was dead and it wasn't doing its job, so we ordered new bacteria. And about after 7 or 8 weeks, we finally got our biological system working. So until then, we had to do frequent water changes to maintain water quality. So there we got some guys going to the lake. This is an emergency. We didn't have enough tap water that had set long enough to get rid of the chlorine, so we had to go to the lake to get some fresh water on occasion. Then we did the research and said, where in the heck is Parks Corn Creek? In Kentucky, the only 2 places right now that this fish is being stocked is at Parks Corn Creek and Red River Gorge and at the tailwaters of the Cumberland River, or the lake. So we made a trip there, make sure we have legal permit to let these fish go. I learned that after the first year. We were letting fish go illegally. But now, you know, if you get caught with these fish, you better make sure you have the right paperwork with you. So the commissioner, Gregory K. Johnson, was the guy that we had to get permission from. There's that Red River Gorge when we made the field trip to release the fish. Kids are doing a water assessment of the stream that we released the fish into. So they're doing pH testing, ammonia, nitrate, the whole battery of tests that they've been doing all year long. The dissolved oxygen levels are really good there. They were at 10.8 and 48 degrees in the water that we released the fish. Getting ready for the release. And we do have video of this, and the kids are making an iMovie of the whole year's experience, including today. We had about 33% gain in academic knowledge from the beginning of the year. We did a pre-test, we did a post-test. These kids, on the average, gained about 33% in their knowledge base on the nitrogen cycle, the water cycle, and ecology in general related to water quality. So I was real proud of the students. They did learn a lot. You know, you start talking about bacteria and the name of the bacteria, nitrosomonas bacteria, nitrobacteria, and what they do, what chemicals they break down. For the average student, that can be a lot. So by the end of the year, it came together, and I think they made more sense of it. And I think my students have gained a lot in knowledge and practical experience, and if they can use some of the things that they do in my class and apply it, and when they get to college, not feel inadequate when those kind of topics come up, and know how to use, techniques. Like, for example, we have a Lamont kit. If you use this kit, it's good enough for government work. And the kids were getting very accurate results with dissolved oxygen. So being able to use testing kits, understanding the role that these chemicals play in water quality, and they also reported on different water pollutions that affect our waters, and they teamed up and did presentations. And it takes a lot longer than I have time to explain the entire project. But we were very successful. And we got to take a trip to Red River, like I said, and then we did a little extra here at Skybridge and Miguel's and that kind of thing, and it made it a worthwhile trip and a very good project for the year. Final notes, I do want to thank again Sheila Kirk, because we almost didn't get the eggs this year. It is hard to get the eggs. I just told them at the beginning of the year that we did the rainbow, we did brown, and I'm not doing this again, I don't think, unless you'll let us have, the brook trout, and they did. And they helped us later on. We had a fish kill, and they supplied a few extra fish so that we'd have enough fish to release into the creek there. So I want to thank everyone, my superintendent, my principal, everyone here, especially Ms. Carpenter and Sheila Kirk, and the Fish and Wildlife Department for their help.